Hello, hello.
I'm not getting it. We're recording.
We're recording. Can you hear me? I don't know if the mics are on. No. Hello, hello. Is that better?
Mhm.
You can hear me okay? All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call to order our 5:30 workshop. It is November 20th, 2024. Excuse me, I have a little cough. I'm not sick, though, I swear. We got 3 items on the agenda, and the first one is an appreciation time for Counselor Susan Cobb, who's leaving us.
Yay.
Um, we're clapping because we're jealous in a lot of ways. So you're going to get your nights back, but I want to say I appreciate you. We did this yesterday, but I want to do it again. Appreciate your thoughtfulness when you've been on council. You said something that I didn't think of was your fresh perspective. I talked about your detail work yesterday at the volunteer appreciation. You know, and I say this a lot to constituents when I'm talking to them alone, which is you guys are my eyes and ears and detail people, because that's just not my strongest suit. So I appreciate that all the other 4 counselors do that, and it makes me kind of be able to stay above the fray just a little bit, especially when I'm doing my mayor stuff. But you were absolutely the most prepared person I've ever worked with on council, and I worked with, you know, about a dozen people now for sure. So thank you for bringing that to council. And I know you're passionate about what you do, and that's a good thing. And I know I've had conversations with you before about it, and you know, you vote your conscience, and that's exactly what you should do, because every vote shouldn't be 5-0. 4-1 and 3-2s, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, because that just shows that our system is working, right? So I appreciate you very much. Is there anything else would you like to say anything?
I said what I was going to say last year. I have a little present for you up there.
I was admiring those beautiful yellow roses. They're gorgeous.
We have a few things.
Yeah, we do. A few things from staff and from council. I'm walking around with, and there you go. It's
We
a
have
crackling
extras.
microphone. So of course, thank you very much for years of service. Of course, staff is here because of you, the city council. It takes a lot of courage to run for city council. It takes a lot of courage serving, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice. And the mayor's correct. You were probably the most prepared city councilor that I've worked with, keeping us on our toes with making sure all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. A quick study on things like budget, quick study on things like code. We really appreciate your scrutiny and your detail orientedness to keep us, you know, honest and keep our work in accordance to how council, you know, envisioned it. So it's been a joy to work with you. It's only been about a year and a half, and I'm going to miss you already. But I know you'll be hanging around and still a big part of the community. So we have a few things for you. Just a few tokens of appreciation from staff and council for, yeah, stand up. And something else that we've kind of wanted to start here is your very own Cobb Court street sign here. Now, legally, you can't put that up on any road, but you can display it proudly as a a token, as a mark that you were a city councilor here, and it's your honorary proof there, Cobb Court. Yeah, that's something the crew did. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the driveway.
By your hair.
Make sure you show everybody what
Yeah.
that looks like, because
This is great.
that's an authentic street sign. So
Thank you so
thank you to
Well,
staff
thank you, Susan.
that put that together.
I would like to say something myself, so if that's okay.
Yeah, it's be great.
I thank you for the service award presented to me yesterday. For not quite 2 years as counselor, I was humbled by Council President Blum's summary of my impact here. I was not expecting a recognition then, was not prepared to make a statement of adieu. Tonight, it's on the schedule. And as this is my last council meeting, and although I will continue doing council work through 12/10, I would like to say a few words in this public forum. Due to hip surgery occurring in early December, my term is ending 3 weeks early. Although a short timer, as Councilor President Blum likes to call me, I believe I was able to move the needle of progress in small ways. During goal setting, I initiated the goal of increasing community outreach, and in my concern for climate change effects, initiated a goal to increase availability of EV charging stations and advocated for the goal of Sisters becoming Dark Skies certified in consideration of all the benefits that that brings to those who visit and, more importantly, to those who reside here. I continually pressed for solar panels where possible as the city developed new facility plans, studied the STR issue, listened to constituents, and then advocated for limiting STRs and sisters. Supported finding a permanent solution for emergency shelter to care for our unhoused, be it too hot, too cold, unhealthy air quality, and advocated for an emergency resolution which is more humanely focused and approved well before the coldest season begins. I thank the public who voted to put me here to serve, as it has been a great honor. Thank you to those who encouraged my positions. Thank you to council members for their unfailing civility. Thank you. I thank all staff members from whom I had the fortune to receive their smiling help in so many uncounted ways. Thank you to department leads, Scott, Joe, and Paul, for your time to explain details I sought to understand. Most of all, I am grateful to the assistant manager, Carrie Prosser, and city manager, Jordan Wheeler. Carrie, where are you? There you are. You were the best guide for a new counselor one could ever have hoped for, even while you took on the role of city manager that we then lacked and continued your already full-time workload. Thank you for all your guidance that first half year. Jordan, you assisted me so many ways to understand how a city works, legal concerns, and negotiating nuances within council on a bevy of topics. Your kindness and patience this past year and a half was deeply appreciated. I will miss being a counselor, but I will not be gone.
I was afraid of that.
In January, I will begin covering council as a freelance writer with a nugget in order to help the public understand the contributions that council brings forth and to know that these elected volunteers serve you well. I look forward to reporting on council's important work in 2025.
Whose idea was that?
What, this?
To work for the Nugget?
Oh, that was my idea.
Okay.
And can I ask a question?
Yes,
Have you had fun?
I have.
It is, it's been fun.
Team,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's been, I think you can have fun up here and be serious at the same time. And that's how I try and do that. And I hope you liked it. So,
I did. No,
Good.
it's hard to leave. This is a very hard position to leave.
well, thank you for your contributions and we'll be looking forward to seeing you at all the rest of the meetings now. That's good. All right. Any last words? That's pretty good right there. Let's just go home now. I'm just kidding. All right, next item on our agenda is Lieutenant Davis. I don't think you have enough gear, sir.
Coming. Keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
So, well, we kind of went into the winter time mode. Been having some more domestic type calls. Anytime we get people more cooped up indoors for long periods of time, we get a few more domestic calls. And we've been seeing some mental health calls here in the last week, taking up a little bit of our time there and helping some folks. We did have a fire outside of the city here at a houseless camp it was probably a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. It was kind of a reckless burning situation where we made an arrest was the second incident of a fire at, where a gentleman was responsible luckily it was this time of year, it wasn't right in the middle of fire season, but made an arrest in that case for reckless burning. And then just kind of been doing our thing. Last night, you may have seen something in the community page about a gas leak with a propane truck. We assisted AmeriGas last night. They had a driver who the hose off of the back of the truck fell off and was dragging down the highway, and it caused a hole in the hose, and it was leaking propane. And so we were down kind of by the gallery and helped him with the fire department's assistance, and until that was cleared up, took about a half hour. But
Do you have any
Efficient.
idea how long that had been the situation?
well, we had received a traffic complaint about it just like 5 minutes before. So he had been flagged down by another driver, and which caused him to pull over. But
And would that, if there had been any sort of a chain spark?
it could have ignited. Yeah, it could have been. Now,
Okay.
it was isolated from the tank. The tank was turned off from the hose, but whatever propane was in the hose and the reel was what needed to.
Could have been a flaming hose.
Yeah, it could have been pretty explosive. So, but we were able to handle it with the fire
Wow.
department's assistance. So, but
Thank you.
yeah. you're welcome.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
Hidden Pine, everything working well with the new all-way intersection? Any incidents or?
No incidents there. I did email Paul today about 20 and Jefferson, that we're seeing a lot of cars make the left-hand turn where they shouldn't be. So,
Oh, right.
yeah, so I've made a couple suggestions on that. That's probably more of an ODOT thing to address. But yeah, Hood and Pine's been fine. I think there were several people that were treating it as a four-way anyway. So I think it's a big improvement. So, yeah.
I have a question, and maybe it's more for Public Works, but I really think when people leave the roundabout on the way to Bend, they're smashing the gas right outside the circle. And by the time they get to Jefferson, they're already doing 35, 40 sometimes. Is there more signage coming, or is there a way we can enforce that, or?
So I was sitting there today running radar, people coming out, because we've noticed that too. It's almost like the slingshot effect where
Yeah.
people are now accelerating, and so we're seeing, that's still a 20 until you get beyond.
To the 35 sign?
Yeah, and so we've been sitting there running, not only watching people try to make the left-hand turn, which I stopped someone for today, but so we're kind of doing extra patrol in that area, trying to just educate. And it's mostly people, I would say locals, but then also people that just are used to turning left on Jefferson from historically. That I stopped a lady today, it was from Terrebonne, and she was like, "Oh, I'm just going to see a friend," and I'm like, "Yeah, you can't turn left there anymore." So it's just an education piece. So far we're just giving warnings. What we're seeing is they're seeing that it's clear, there's no oncoming traffic, so they're just going. But I can foresee a potential for a
Problem.
crash there too. So we're trying to
The problem
pay
there
extra
is that
attention.
There's still a turn lane,
Ish.
ish.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the issue is that maybe if that was removed,
So
Yeah.
double yellow doesn't necessarily make that median. What I've suggested, there's still a bracket for, there's some other piece of signage that's supposed to go up there that they haven't put up yet. And I'm not sure if it's a
Something,
no left turn
Oh,
or if it's like a median type sign. But one thing I would suggest is just additional cones, like going back to the east, just to designate that a little bit more. Ideally, I think that curbing probably should have gone to the east about another 10, 15 feet to make it more obvious, but it's for the untrained person, it's a little deceptive, so.
Is that unextended area for where the raised pieces, is the intent to have that painted in some way to?
Well, there's double yellow,
Okay,
lines going up to it. I don't know if some additional paint, hash marks, or just those cones that can be mounted to the ground, but they actually have a little flexibility to them in case they
Yeah.
do get hit. some additional cones there, just making it more obvious, or a no left turn sign, mounted on the median, I think might be helpful, but I don't know what the plan is, so for that.
I can check on that. Signage. I was curious too about that.
Your microphone's not on.
You want me to repeat that? We'll check on the signage and see what the plans are. I don't think there's going to be additional painting, but in terms of that, yeah, no median or the median sign, and then the 20 mile per hour, the slingshot. People might think just in their practice with roundabouts, slow roundabout and then I accelerate.
Right.
But no, slow roundabout, stay slow.
Yeah.
That's what we need people to take home.
I mean, I assume 10 years down the road or 15 years down the road, when the 12620Y gets a roundabout, which I think is in the long-term planning of ODOT, that'll probably be 20 to that next roundabout anyway.
Yeah.
But until that's done, everybody's zooming to get out of town, and,
Starting early.
yeah. I had a semi right behind me this morning. I turned right off Jefferson. The next thing I knew, he was there on me. I was like, whoa. And you can't brake check a 18-wheeler because that never,
Never a good idea.
never look, you see it on the internet and it's not smart. So anyway,
Yeah, we're seeing that too.
yeah, okay. Well, thanks for looking out for us. Any other questions? You good? Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant Davis. Stay safe out there. What is that?
Sisters Oregon, thank you.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
That's sweet.
What's going on?
Somebody lost their phone?
That's not mine.
Oh, it might be mine. Where was it, in the bathroom? Oh, thank you. It is mine.
Yeah.
You get presents, you leave presents.
All right. Looks like we have Finance Director O'Neill with a quarterly financial report.
Yes, thank you. And I brought my mouse this time. Remember the struggle I had last time with the touch mouse, and
Yeah, we were wondering about that.
yeah, that was not my finest moment. So I remedied that this time. Okay, so I came extra prepared even with a laser pointer,
Oh.
right? Okay.
Really
Starting out
warmed you
today.
up, yeah.
I love
Big
it.
time.
Sit afterward.
Can you all see that? I can zoom in a little bit.
A little, yeah.
A little zooming
Okay.
would be good.
Okay.
There you go. That looks good.
Good enough? Okay, so as I typically do, we'll just kind of go through the summaries of the revenue and expenses, then any particular questions you have regarding funds or anything else, then happy to field those. So this is the fourth quarter of 23-24 financial review, and the reason for that is it just takes a little bit extra time to do all the pre-audit adjustments, you call them. So a lot of them are related to timing in terms of examples are campground reservations, depreciation, things like that. So I want to make sure that those are all good and correct there before I present anything that isn't. So kind of drilling down the list here, you have the beginning fund balances, and those have been the same throughout the year, of course. And those were positive, which is good. So there's some good news here. A lot of the green, I know it's a negative number, but it's green. We changed that. So these are all good things. And so again, just going down the list here, we have property taxes. As we discussed in the budget meetings, the property taxes were up about 8% above, I think we estimated about 5%. So that was really encouraging for that line item. And going down to franchise fees, so franchise fees are predominantly in the street fund. We also loop in park fees to that just to kind of keep it, concise in terms of grouping. And those are up, the campground for fiscal year 24, those are about $30,000. And then, the main variable for the street franchise fees is CEC. CEC's been, ever since we went up to that 7% a couple years ago, it's been really favorable. And so it's always kind of overshot our projections. So that's the reason for the franchise fees. They're beating our budget numbers. Miscellaneous and other income, the larger driver for that is actually interest. Amongst other things, that's another group that a lot of different line items group into. But as you know, interest was real healthy for that fiscal year. So that's the big explainer for that. Going down to local gas tax, and this is something that we've kind of seen throughout the year. Gas tax has just kind of been right on the cusp of historical expectations, and it was down a little bit. So we're kind of seeing that throughout the state. and throughout the country, quite frankly. So I think we budgeted 190,000 for 425. So we expect that to be fairly linear. I mean, all things considered, when you're at a 3% differential, that's not that much. So
That's interesting, that 3%, because they just reported in Oregon that there's an increase in EVs by 3%. Ownership of cars is EVs.
Yep, so you can
That's
figure that.
there you go. Yeah.
We did also.
Yeah.
Really hard to get to.
Yep. Yep. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Also, SEC income, as we've seen throughout the year, has been down just to kind of reduction in development activity. I mean, we saw that addressed also in the budget process for the fiscal year that we're in now.
Was this before the increases in the SDCs?
This was, yep. So this is tough because we kind of have to go back in time a little bit, but yes, you're correct. This was before the increases. Also for water and sewer, those were before the increases as well. For water, overall consumption was up slightly, and you see this 109% here. That was largely due to just adding of accounts and a little bit of an increase in volume. So nothing too drastic there. Really happy with kind of how we hit the water and sewer receipts projections. To get, again, within 2 percentage points for sewer, even 9 percentage points for waters is pretty good. Those are really hard to estimate. And then transient lodging tax, the second to last item there from the bottom. As we discussed before, it fluctuated a little bit, at least towards the end of the fiscal year, but actually came in fairly close to budget expectations. So we're happy with that, and we're tracking those and just kind of seeing, what some of the drivers are. And, really in the wintertime, it's weather, quite frankly. And so that'll be interesting to kind of see how this fiscal year is compared to last fiscal year. And then shared revenues and grants, we were up on that a little bit. That was largely due to just some grants, mostly for the East Portal. So we received that in fiscal year 23-24 instead of 22-23.
Or transportation hub property, is that what we were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the Sith.
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay, so that's the revenue side. So really overall great news there for the revenue, up above a lot of our projections. All right. Then slowly rolling to the expense side, not nearly as detailed enough, but still really good things to report here. So as you can see, capital outlay was down quite a bit. I have some notes here. That was largely due to a lot of the timing of projects in the water fund. We had a big well 3 project, if you remember, that we kind of value engineered and decided to do a little bit later. The sewer SDC fund and the URA project fund. URA project fund was largely associated with the roundabout. And as you remember, we place funds into our ODOT bank account that they have access to, they can pull from, and it's very hard to determine when they're going to do that. So we have to still put that placeholder in there and just kind of play catch up. So even this year they haven't done that yet, and that's pretty common. If I remember, with Cascade Avenue, that was kind of predating me, but there was still a lot of expense items trickling after that project was done, after they kind of wrap up their design and engineering and project management and such. So we'll be tracking that, but that's one of the main reasons for that low lapse rate in capital outlay there. Okay, and then debt service, of course, that's probably the easiest one to project. Those were all paid and fulfilled, so no remaining balance there for the budget. And then materials and services went at or below expectations. I think for the water and sewer fund, we were pretty close. We had, as you remember, a supplemental budget for sewer repairs, and that kind of continued through the end of the fiscal year, so we're really close on that. Luckily, we did a supplemental budget for that, and same with water. We just had a couple, pumps and certain things that were kind of unexpected that we had to do. And then personnel services were down to about 87% there for the lapse rate. So yeah, I mean that is largely due to just kind of recruiting, mostly in the public works department. And so we were just kind of down one FTE still for most of that year. And then transfers out, well, that was similar to debt service. That was just a straight amount. So revenue was up and expenses were down. So that's always good.
So
Yeah.
how are we gonna project SDCs more accurately?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The way we did that this year is we tried to use a lot of the STC study, honestly, and tried to see, when we had the master plans and we had the studies by Donovan Enterprises, we tried to just project those numbers out a little bit more realistically. It still is a difficult number to hit. I will say the biggest variable for us is industrial development. You could have a transportation SDC that just, doubles the historical, year SDC. Or multifamily or anything like that. So.
So if we had a good economic development director guy
Right.
that would be able to tune us in.
Yep.
Are you
Have
saying we
better-
don't have one now?
Well,
Ouch.
we were off on the number there pretty good.
No, that's a good point. I mean, tuning into everything that's going on is important for sure.
Okay.
It's difficult to project the SDCs too, because some of it depends on the type of development that's occurring.
Yeah.
The single family, the Woodlands, for example, has different elements, right, in different phases. And when they come in and pull permits, we don't know, right? We do the land use, so we start projecting, okay, we got 100 units coming, but when they submit for that phase, and you can, fiscal year to fiscal year, it gets harder, right? As your horizon gets further out. But if they're submitting for public improvements, and doing the streets and stuff, then you can sort of start anticipating, okay, they're going to pull, building permits for that next phase. But downturn in the economy, and all of a sudden they're starting to pull back and delaying projects, then, we didn't meet our targets in SDCs because they're not pulling permits right now. They're not
I
building.
mean, that happened to McKenzie Meadows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
that whole neighborhood didn't get built out until 7 years after it was started.
Right.
We had the Great Recession, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
Yep.
hope that doesn't happen, knock on wood.
Yeah, and obviously we try to project those conservatively, just especially because we're doing a lot of big projects there. So, that's another factor as well.
And we do not have a kicker. So when you see revenue,
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other
No, the
questions?
numbers look good. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
good as good as you can expect, I think.
Yeah. No, I think that, getting as close as we can to those projections is what we aim for. So,
I mean, I can assure you, talking to mayors in other parts of the state, some of those cities are having a really hard time right now. So the economy hits different places in different ways. And,
sure.
we have a special area that we seem to weather those hopefully better than most, right?
Yep.
Any other questions for Joe? Other than good job, you
Oh,
and
thanks.
Kim and Julie just rock it.
Yep. Great team for sure.
I'm-
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry we didn't have an Excel spreadsheet up there, but
I have one on, I always have one on my computer. So.
right,
Thank you.
thank you. We have about a half an hour. Do you want to do staff comments or do you want to do the FEMA part?
we can do both, actually. I think we probably can fit it in.
Why don't
Yeah.
we go ahead?
For it.
Just so
Yeah.
the public knows, we're going to move up other business from the city council meeting. We're going to move it into this meeting. It's an update on FEMA floodplain requirements from Scott and staff comments.
Yeah,
You can
so-
do it either way you want.
Yeah, and I'll have Scott come up first for development services. Couple quick updates from me. Attended the Ben Chamber Impact Conference today. Just a couple fun tidbits coming out of that. A lot of it was talking about obviously, forecasting what's going to happen with the economy and labor markets and things like that. This next year. But some of it was about chambers and kind of business sentiment, and they did some surveys of the American public, and folks trust businesses and chambers more than they trust government and other institutions. I was like, come on. I was like, well, they get to spend almost $1 trillion on marketing. Typical business is about 10 to 15% of their revenue spent on marketing, right? I don't think we spend a dime on marketing here at the City of Sisters, but it's just something for us to be aware of, is that is the environment that we operate in, is, highly divided, a lot of distrust in government. But when you peel back the layers of that, you see, distrust in the federal government is very low. State government starts to creep up a little bit more. By the time you get to counties and then cities, folks trust, obviously, the things they know. So, local government have a better rating, but also that goes for businesses too. Trust in big business is not as strong as the small mom and pops and folks that they know, the Main Street businesses. So that was an interesting tidbit. The other things that you're talking about, labor market obviously was a big discussion because you got businesses that are trying to hire here in Central Oregon. The exact things that you guys are working on, the city is working on with affordable housing was a big theme in terms of labor and employment issues and trying to find workforce, skilled, unskilled, any level, attracting a workforce. And that continues to be a challenge. The job, despite the economy, kind of chugging along a little bit slower these days, the labor market is still really tight. Low unemployment. Folks are still looking for employees, and then one of the big barriers is just the cost of living here in Central Oregon. So there was a lot of talk about housing and more of the yes in my backyard sort of discussion and policy topics. That's an update on that stuff. And then I shared this, I think, by email last week. PSU did update their population forecast, so we got the preliminary estimates. They certify that next month, but they revise pretty much a state downward, every community. So, the statewide population projections came down from the earlier or from their last year's certified. We're at 3738. So we actually got revised down as well. And just some interesting things in there. Our estimate of our persons per household has been revised down. I think that's a reflection of folks that are moving here, maybe the aging demographics and things like that. And then we still are sitting at a 20% vacancy rate too. So that takes into account when you look at what our housing supply is, total housing supply of over 2,000 units. You have to account for a 20% vacancy rate in those units and then calculate how many people per household. And that's how you kind of get up to that number.
What was the household number? You said it's lower than it was. That's, if you don't.
Oh,
that's fine.
2.17, I think is what I can also, I'll share that with you. But, and I think it came down from 2.4 before the recession or before the pandemic. And just kind of, you could see the trajectory and some of this, what's been built lately in town, maybe, and maybe that'll start to turn as we see more multifamily projects come online. You will see maybe more families move here.
We'll get
affordable
more
housing.
daycare.
Childcare, that was another thing talked about in these surveys. That was one of the, besides costs, of course, but big barrier for folks is childcare and recruiting people. Next meeting is a joint meeting on December 4th, so you have a couple weeks break until our next city council meeting. December 4th is a joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners, and then your next city council meeting isn't until December 11th. So make sure those things are on your calendar. And then, of course, have a great Thanksgiving holiday. City Hall will be closed Thursday, Friday next week, so enjoy the time with your families, and thank you.
Yeah, we're going to Carrie's house.
Yeah, Carrie's hosting now.
Yeah.
We'll eat all the out-of-date stuff in your fridge. How's that?
And the Lieutenant's still here. I don't think you can shoot any turkeys in town, right? Okay, right. No, don't try to take out any of our turkeys. Thank you. All right.
I don't think they
But the
would.
burn ban's gone, so you can burn them.
Wild
There's-
turkey isn't that tasty.
No,
Okay,
there's
well,
no
not that
breast
tasting,
meat,
you can't
yeah.
do it, so don't get any ideas.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, you're on. You got FEMA to talk about. Any other updates too from Development Services?
Good evening. Wanted to update council just on this floodplain stuff coming down the pike here that is affecting sisters and affecting a lot of communities in Oregon. And it relates to all the way back to 2009. And there was a lawsuit by the Audubon Society of FEMA. And FEMA is the body that basically regulates the National Flood Insurance Program. And basically, the lawsuit had to do with the flood insurance program not protecting endangered species well enough. And we're able to prevail on that lawsuit, basically saying that if communities were to continue to operate or enforce their floodplain regulations as per usual or as per traditionally written, that it would result in the extinction of 16, I think, different types of fish. So it's taken a long time to kind of work its way through the process. Back in 2016, there was a biological opinion basically brought forward that kind of verified all this, and basically is requiring FEMA to act and to require its individual communities, which are the ones that individual communities basically administer the flood insurance program, and it basically affects all communities that have tributaries that I think eventually flow into the Columbia River, and then maybe into the ocean itself. I'm not sure the reach, but even Sisters way up here at the end is affected via Waichus Creek going through town in the floodplain that we have.
Why did we revive the river? If only we had done nothing.
Yeah. So we've been we've about the last, I don't know, maybe 9 months to a year, we've kind of known about this or been made aware of it. And we were kind of just waiting for direction to come forward. And then all of a sudden direction came like that and said, FEMA said, you have to have some changes made to your program by December 1st,
Wow.
which there's been a lot of pushback on that to let FEMA know that the process that communities have to go through to revise their standards, it's not easy. And in Oregon, there's requirements. So despite some political pushback on that, I don't think that political pushback had much success. But FEMA recognizes that that we have logistics that you just can't change those overnight. And so even though there's a December 1st of 2024 deadline to make a kind of a decision on, they basically presented 3 different options that communities have to make a choice on in terms of how they want to proceed. One is to adopt what they're calling their model ordinance. But my understanding is the model ordinance isn't ready yet. It's going to you could prohibit all development in the floodplain, which I don't think any community is wanting to do, given that there are constitutional takings issues there that could come into play. And I don't think any community wants to contemplate that. And the third option is to do what they call a permit by permit evaluation. And permit by permit evaluation basically means that if somebody wanted to develop in the floodplain now, that they would have to basically hire a wildlife biologist and certify that their impacts are not going to create there's going to result in no net loss of fish habitat or no impact to its function, the floodplain function.
And how likely would it be to find a certified wildlife biologist that would say that it's going to have absolutely no impact? I would think most of them would say any kind of building in the floodplain would have an impact.
Well, it's not to say that if you're staying out of the floodplain, obviously there's no impact, but there's opportunities to mitigate your impacts.
Okay.
If you lose some trees, planting some trees. If you do some fill, kind of creating some other opportunities to, I guess, unfill.
And is that part of the FEMA what those would be?
Yeah.
So we don't have to create them
Correct.
ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we one thing just want to kind of run by you guys is we have to let them know by December 1st which way we would go, and we're leaning towards saying that we're going to do the permit by permit in the meantime, because that's really all.
Well, I think we should vote for adopting the model, which is not available, so we can't review it.
Yeah.
That
So-
seems like a good idea.
Right. Yeah. So what What they've also said is that, understanding that December 1st is not an achievable deadline, is pushing it out to July, I think it's July 31st, when
That's reasonable.
that model ordinance could be adopted. So,
Maybe so they can show us what the model actually is. That'd be nice.
Once it
Yeah.
comes out.
Here's your three options, but we don't have one ready yet for you.
Yeah, it should be, out till July 31st unless the model is not ready.
Yeah, right.
yeah,
By March 1st,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe somebody at the Nugget will write about this next year.
Yeah,
Maybe.
so just considering, just kind of keeping that under consideration as we, something I need to consider in terms of creating our work plan for the next year, and consideration of council goals. I guess that would be something that'll be a big work effort needed to get that done. I don't think it really affects a whole lot of properties here. There's already been a lot of development kind of in and around the floodplain. Timber Creek has been all built out, and it was designed to be built out of the floodplain. We have some other.
Couple in Buck Run.
Yeah, a couple in Buck Run. There's a couple along Elm Street that are affected, and this process would involve some education, a lot of notices to all the property owners that this is happening. So, but I think it's going to affect communities over along the coast much more than it will us, because it's really going to affect those areas that have a lot of their economic industry in these floodplains. That's going to be a major issue for.
well,
At the LOC annual conference in Bend last month, mayors noted that FEMA is another four-letter word that starts with F.
Come on
And
now.
that was the big joke. It's just, it's a shame that they waited so darn long. They've had since '09, and it's 15 years later almost. So anyway, we'll deal with it best we can, like we always do. Can't ignore it, but
yeah, it's not a big deal here.
all
compared
right.
to-
Yeah, the permit by permit seems to be the
Yeah.
obvious choice there.
I guess, well, we'll have to think about council goals and maybe highlight something about that. And there might be more homework to do and try and figure out how many hours that's going to take and all that. So,
It's my understanding is going to be a lot of process, right? Notification, you got to go through hearings, you got to explain to the public what this is. Again, the impact is hopefully pretty minimal in terms of actual properties today that would be looking to develop and what's going to change from what we regulate today, and then the model ordinance when we get it, what we have to adopt there. But it does, that you've seen these things, right? Like just the process to go through takes time and staff work and takes away from our ability to focus on other policies and priorities. And we have to have hearings and notices and more hearings and things like that.
should be interesting. I think there's other work going on behind the scenes. I know I've heard whispers about the governor's office is not real happy about it because of the timeline issues. It's not about not wanting to protect habitat. Everybody wants to do that, but at the same time, it's hard to know exactly what you're supposed to do when you don't have the model ordinance, and December 1's the deadline, and we're not going to see each other again before then, right? So,
Yeah, follow these rules by this date. And by the way, we don't know what the rules are yet.
Most communities are doing the permit by permit, and you just have to at this point, notify FEMA what path we're taking.
Right.
And then you have until the end of the fiscal year to basically go through this process for adopting the new ordinance that codifies.
are we going to go ahead and do that then? Do you want a head nod from us about that, or
Yeah, it'd be helpful get a head nod that will inform them or
I'm okay? There's not much choice right now, permit by permit. So, Jennifer?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
thank you.
It's 4, so proceed with that part of it, and we'll figure out the rest in the mix later.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this just impacts cities, or is, counties have to.
counties, yeah.
counties have to do this as
Um,
well? Okay.
I think Scott probably said this, but why this is important for people is that we want to maintain our eligibility for the National Flood Insurance Program. So if we just said, nah, sorry, FEMA, we don't want to disqualify our private property owners that need that insurance, so.
Well, and I'm sure that the people that own property on the creek that haven't developed anything would be, very surprised possibly that this is happening, right? So, okay. Thank you on that.
Yep, thank you. In terms of staff updates, just completed a couple marathon interview sessions for the Parks Board and the Planning Commission. Thank you to Councilor Letts and Councilor Cobb for assisting in that process. Yeah, we had definitely a good turnout to our plea for applicants for those positions. We had 10 applications for 3 positions on the Planning Commission. And we had 7 applications for 4 positions on the Parks Board. And so I got great applicants, and we're unfortunately going to have to say no to some of them, which is really hard to do because got some, all of them were qualified. So
That's sisters for you.
yeah, great to have the choices. I think we need to create some more boards and commissions.
More night meetings.
Party planning commission.
So the mayor's going to appoint well, I guess we'll work with you, Mayor, to let you know the choices for the December 11th.
Okay.
Large Street Commons, East and West, which are the Sisters Habitat projects, subdivision and cottage developments, are slated to go to Planning Commission at a workshop tomorrow afternoon. And that's just to kind of, it's just a workshop. It's not deliberation. It's just to make sure that Planning Commission understands the proposals so that they can be prepared to do a public hearing on those projects December 5th. And then down the UGB, the next big event is the open house on December 9th, 6 to 8 p.m. if you want to come, at the Sisters Elementary School. And the order of events is open up at 6 o'clock to 6:30, where people can come in and kind of casually look at the boards and talk to staff. And then at 6:30 there'll be a formal presentation, not a long one, but kind of give a little bit of background and update on the process, and then a Q&A session so that folks can ask questions in front of the crowd. And then we'll break into small groups at 7. And that's where we'll get the real feedback from the public, where we'll have the concepts, looking for volunteers to be a facilitator at looking like, depending on how many people come, multiple tables of 8 citizens at each one, where we'll pose some questions to them and have the concepts, and then get the feedback from folks. So I put that call out. Some of you have volunteered, I think, and I think we're getting close to getting the number of volunteers we need to run that efficiently. We're getting some from the Planning Commission and some from the steering committee as well. And it's just a great way for people on boards and commissions to hear what the community is saying directly. So I think it's a valuable exercise. So we will be sending mailers out to over 2,000 property owners here shortly. You'll all get one here from me saying, talking about the open house. It's going to go to all city residents, property owners, as well as all the property owners in the study area.
There goes the mail bill.
Yeah, posted.
I hope not everybody shows up to the open house, because if you can't show up, there's an online version of it that you can do starting December 9th, and we'll have it open for 3 weeks or something like that, so that people, if they can't make it, they can provide their feedback that way too.
You guys have been working hard getting out there. Matt did a presentation today at the Sisters Business Roundtable. That was good.
Yep.
I've seen you do it. I think Emmy's done it. I think everybody's been out there.
Yeah.
I think we
Goal
all thought
1.
we could do it. We've heard it so many times.
They did it yesterday. Yeah.
Goal 1, public outreach, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Good thing we're doing.
Yeah, awesome.
Any questions I could answer?
No, I think we're good.
Great. Jackson, come on up.
So Sunday night, we got our first snow accumulation of the season. It didn't hit enough for our contracted snow removal to be mobilized, but our crews were on top of it, de-icing and plowing where needed. Uh, Putting final touches on our snow and winter ops equipment. So everything will be ready in the event that we do have any snow. You'll notice the snowflakes and winter banners. The new winter banners are going up. Our crew got about halfway through that today, and we'll have everything up and running for the tree lighting ceremony, the Holiday Palooza, which will be
November 30th.
November 30th, Saturday. Parade at 3:30, tree lighting ceremony beginning around 5 o'clock. That tree did get restrung. It had been a couple of years up there. So they restrung it in a new way so that it will withstand the wind better and hopefully be a little bit more resilient to the weather. East Portal, you'll notice there is curb in place. They're getting base rock ready to go, trying to do as much work as they can so that once the asphalt plants open in spring, they can hit the ground running. As we've noted, the Hood and Pine intersection is working well. For the McKinney Butte safety improvements, our city engineer is getting some final survey markings out there so that the Keaton and King can get to work on that soon. And we had Urban Forestry Board interviews today. 2 applicants for 2 open positions.
2 for 2, that's good.
And we have a heritage tree applicant?
Yes, 1 application that's still being reviewed. Hoping to get that in front of the Urban Forestry Board in December. If everything goes according to plan.
Exciting.
I see a smile over there. Do we know who the applicant is?
It's Heath. The tree is Heath.
Heath, his name is Heath. All right.
Nice.
Any questions?
I'll be at the tree lighting. I've done it 3 or 4 years. I'd like to invite you if you'd like to come.
We'll see.
Okay.
Just bundle up.
It's, if you haven't been to the tree lighting, it's kind of a fun little thing. It's what I call the best local event we have that's really catered to locals, even though a lot of people just show up anyway. So
But
it's
this
fun.
year, the parade is going to end and then it's going to be the tree lighting instead of them being
That's right.
disjointed.
Yeah.
So-
It was like that last year. The parade is going to go the opposite direction. It's going to start at Pine and come down to First Street Park. Last year it went into the sun, and horses and other things don't like that, drivers. So they switched that, and it's a little more closer together. I think it's a little more compact show overall. But there is going to be Santa at Sisters Makers, I heard today. So, there's more partnerships going on, and I also, a little bird told me that the audio situation is going to be lots better. So, yeah,
Are there going to be carolers?
I don't know. I don't know the whole script. I just know what time I'm supposed to show up. So
Who's,
my part's easy.
who's running it?
It's SBRD. So
Oh.
Jen Holland would be, if you want to know more details about it, she can tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job.
Carrie,
Joe?
Oh, Joe, you can, yeah, Carrie. can come
Carrie?
up. Yeah.
Sorry.
There you go.
All right, just a handful of updates. The second call for the roundabout art went out on November 8th and will be due by January 7th and have already received 3 submittals and quite a few actually inquiries. So feeling pretty good about that at this point, and we'll keep you updated as we move forward. Civic Leadership Academy, round 2. We're having a kickoff meeting this Friday, so we'll start working towards that. Plan on having it at the same time frame, so mid-April through May, with the group presenting to council at probably the middle of June with their presentation. So that's moving forward. Met with the vision implementation team on Tuesday, but I'll let Councilor Letts review that when she does her update. But those meetings have been every other month and have been well attended, actually. So it's been great to kind of see the group staying together and keeping going. And speaking of that, I did a presentation about our vision to Newberry Country Community Action Summit. So South County is working on more of a strategic plan, but kind of framed like a vision. And myself and Nicole Mardell, who had worked for the county when we did our vision, then worked for the city and now is working for the county, tag teamed a presentation to really talk about how our vision worked and kind of what they're doing. So that was a great way to get kind of more sisters out in the community. And I did attend a pre-winter meeting with the Deschutes County Behavioral Health with quite a few of the providers for sheltering, emergency management, Nathan Garraby, and Red Cross and some others on last Friday morning, really talking about what it looks like as we move into kind of the winter weather and when things will be escalated to opening more shelters, particularly in Bend and Redmond, which kind of leads into tonight's topic with our resolution for declaring an emergency. So that was a great meeting, and I think one of the great things that came out of last winter and partnering was we made a lot of contacts with the county folks and some of the state of Oregon folks in emergency management. And now we are included in all of those conversations, which we have never been included in before as we work forward. So everybody's on the same page, which has been great.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Let's see if you have questions.
Civic Leadership Academy, I thought that was a great program. We see people who are going to be on council that were in part of that. We see them in other parts of the community, just out and about. It's actually a fantastic program. I'm glad we're doing it a second time. And I'd like to encourage counselors moving forward to even consider trying to make it some kind of regular thing. It doesn't, I don't know if it has to be every year, maybe every other year. It just depends on how we feel. But I just think it's a great way to engage people that were never engaged before.
It's perfect. It's
Yeah,
really
I
good.
think it's worth every dime to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and the applicants on the board and commissions and the UGB steering committee and yeah.
well, these are people that I kind of didn't know were around, and then all of a sudden here they are, and they're, they're making
And they
making
were-
waves.
They were diverse.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't often see a group come forward like that and have that much diversity on it. So I
Yeah,
was-
now one's going to be a counselor and
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
are on boards.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
have
it's
applied
great.
for boards, and
Yeah.
3 are actually now on the VIT as well.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it just widens the circle. You know what I mean? I think it's great.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
Okay, I'll be quick.
Okay.
So the finance update, just a couple things. We're just kind of in the midst of some projects that we're kind of championing regarding more technology replacements. So we have some upgrades at the campground going on and here in City Hall, and then actually probably in a couple weeks, a new phone system, which we're pretty excited about. And then let's see, doing a little exchange so with auditors in terms of field work and questions. And that's been great. And then Paul and I are going to a capability assessment tomorrow with Deschutes County Emergency Management. Probably, a lot more infrastructure on Paul's side, and then kind of on the cybersecurity and kind of the IT resiliency, kind of internally on the administrative side. So it'll be interesting to learn what they have to say about that. I haven't really gone to too many of those meetings like Paul has. And then last year, probably asking about wondering about the horse still at Ponderosa Forge. Is my understanding that they're just kind of waiting on some more welding components for that. It's obviously bronze, so not stuff off the shelf that they typically have. So I think they're getting that in the next day or two. So I think we'll be able to hear more probably by the end of the week as to when that'll be done, and we'll be able to put it back on the pedestal. The stallion, I'm sorry. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
No, I think we've heard enough from you.
Okay. I hear that a lot.
No, I'm just kidding. Appreciate
you.
all that you do.
You bet.
All right. That's
Good.
all the
Yep,
updates.
that's our
So
updates. Thank you.
thank you. I'm going to close this workshop. We're going to take 6 minutes. So is that enough?
Yeah.
6:35, we'll start the city council meeting. All right. Sit down, Doug, please.
Stand back up.
Just kidding you. I call to order the November 20th regular city council meeting at 6:36 PM. Sorry, we're a little late. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Rebecca, please.
Mayor Pruden,
I'm here.
Council President Blum,
Here?
Councilor Lutz,
Here.
Councilor Cobb.
Here.
All right, Gary is not here today. Next up is the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Any nays? I didn't think so.
No visitor communication?
No. I'm about to ask about visitor communication. Do we have visitor communication?
We do. Doug Maines.
Doug Maines. Name and address for the record, please.
Douglas Maines, Maines, 945 East Creekview Drive.
All right, you got 3 minutes.
I do. I lived in Seattle for 35 years, had 2 dogs for 23 years. I've lived here for 4 years, had a dog for almost 4. I have had more close calls crossing the pedestrian crosswalks in this city than I had in the entire time I lived in Seattle. And anybody that's going to tell me that those flags work, no. Ask the guy whose wife was put in the hospital. Ask me what happened up at Snowcap the other night. I had a flag in my hand. I had a very obnoxious strobe light on my head. Halfway across the lane, gentleman, I don't know who, comes up, goes around me, crosses the center line, and pulls back into our lane just before he gets in front of the other car that stopped. This is not something that happens occasionally. I walk my dog every day in town. I probably have an incident like that twice a week. I don't know if the city would approve of putting lighted crosswalk signs where you can push a button and turn it on. It certainly won't slow traffic down any more than just walking across the street. Sooner or later, we're going to have somebody hit. I'm hoping it's not me, and I'm hoping it's not anybody. But I have had way more close calls in crosswalks here than I had in the entire time I lived in Seattle. I don't know if it's attitude, going out of town, it's the people that are leaving. And same thing out here with the new crosswalk that's by Creekside Park. The people going out of town don't stop. The people coming into town, for some reason or other, they generally do. The crosswalks around the traffic circle are pretty well lighted, so you get seen. It's the one just east of that that's not as well lighted.
The
And-
new one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And up by Snowcap, it's dark. And like I said, I had a strobe light on my head with a flag in front of me, and had I stuck my arm out like that, I'd have hit the guy's windshield. That's how close he was. Didn't slow down, no brakes, no nothing. Just kept right on going around me, over the center line, and pulled back in. It's common. It's not an unusual event. I would ask the city to consider putting in those push button crosswalk signs where you can push a button and it puts a flashing light up that says crosswalk. I mean, that's cheaper than that poor woman that got hit by the car.
Is this after dark mostly?
After dark, it's horrible. I've had lighted vests on and still had close calls. Like I said, I had a strobe light on my head. If I put that strobe light on, you could see it from the other end of town. So I would ask the city to consider 3, a lighted one down by Creekside, 1 in the middle, and 1 at the far end. I think that would be fair. I don't know how much they cost, but I'd ask the city to consider doing something like that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Doug. Maybe a council goal next year or something. We'll talk about it.
On Highway
Pedestrian safety.
20,
Well,
we can't do it.
got ODOT issues,
ODOT.
but
Yeah.
it's
but,
definitely. oh,
We can
you know,
ask.
It's,
Yeah.
It's an ask.
I live it every day too, so.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
he's not,
Oh, no, he's not making that up.
yeah. Anyway. That's about as much discussion we've ever had on that part.
Not supposed to.
That's okay. Anybody else?
None other.
Okay, last chance. All right. Next up is the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. No dissent there. On to council business. Next up is a discussion and consideration of Resolution 2024-22, State of Emergency and Temporary Shelter Facilities. Assistant City Manager Carrie Prosser is here.
Good evening, council.
Hi.
This is a request to adopt Resolution 2024-22, which authorizes the temporary shelter facilities during severe cold weather conditions. This is a very similar declaration that we have made since, I believe, 2017 every year. This year, there's a handful of changes that I just want to review over previous resolutions. And few of these changes have come because of the time we've spent working with Deschutes County and Oregon, State of Oregon Emergency Management, and some of the nonprofits in town. So one of the things we did is we mirrored the overnight shelter activation thresholds in the resolution. It's Exhibit A, and they mirror Deschutes County's Health Services Winter Warming Shelter Activation Guide. And for Redmond and Bend, that activation guide is when they activate for more shelter beds than they currently have when they run into the situations for emergency. In our previous resolutions, we have had different temperature degrees. We've had watching the Natural Weather Service. And this year, it's really nice to have a very consistent with what the rest of the county is doing. And that any entity that decides that they would like to do a shelter as needed can follow those and make those decisions on their own. So that was one of the changes. We changed the shelter hours of operation between 5 p.m. and 10 a.m. Used to be a 7 a.m. out for folks. And one of the things that we found is that there are no warming shelters open day shelters open between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. The library opens at 10. The Parks and Rec Community Center usually opens about that time. So we did not want to have to make people leave shelter facilities in the morning, sometimes at the coldest part of the day, and not have anywhere to go. So we've made adaptations. They can leave earlier, but there's also the ability to stay open a little longer. And then additionally, provision 3.3 allows an overnight emergency shelter to stay open during the day if there is not a public facility, the library or the SPRD community room, open for warming between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. So it allows for specifically, and most likely on Sundays, because those facilities are closed on Sundays, that they could, if needed, and the criteria are met, stay open during the day for people to stay warm. So those are the three largest changes. And then section 3.4, which are really kind of the pieces that any entity that wants to open or needs to open a facility that needs to follow up with the city and with the fire department. So they need a letter from the property owner authorizing the use of the property as a temporary overnight shelter. They need an operational permit from the fire safety manager authorizing the use of the space as a temporary overnight shelter. They need to have a shelter code of conduct. They need to have an emergency contact information for the shelter operator, both with the city and with the DCSO. And they also need to notify DCSO sisters when nights they're going to be open so that they kind of know where they are and what they're doing. And sometimes they actually bring folks in as needed in those colder sets. This declaration will run from November 21st, which is tomorrow, through March 15th. That's really the probably the peak times that we have inclement weather that comes through. One of the other pieces, we did this last year, but we hadn't done it previously, is there's not a specific address shelter named in this resolution. And the why of that is we wanted to do more of a blanket where if there was a building, a church that wanted to open because they saw the need, they could do that if they followed this criteria, and that we weren't limiting it to just one space or one address. So those are the major changes to the resolution. I'm asking if the council would like to adopt this and approve this resolution tonight, and open to questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question. It requires a code of conduct. Do we have say about what's in that code of conduct, or what does that mean?
So we don't have that in here specifically. We just ask because some shelters may be high barrier, some might be low barrier, depending upon what their facility allows. And so that's really up to them to decide
So
what
we
they
want
would
to
like to
know
be.
what it is.
We want to know what it is, but don't have influence over it. I'm sure, knowing the nonprofits that we're working with and meeting with regularly, that if there was something egregious that we looked at, they would probably talk with us about that and adjust to that. So I think those relationships look a little different, and I think we could have those conversations if something felt like it was untenable.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel really comfortable with this. We've
Yep.
gone this way and that way and last minute and before, and now getting ahead of it, I feel a lot better, so that any organization that is, feels that they can open a shelter and wants to open a shelter knows in advance what they have to do, who they have to contact, what it has to be. And so feel we're a lot better prepared this year. And I appreciate the work you've done working through these issues. And thanks. I like everything in there so far. I haven't seen anything I don't like.
I do too. It's more equitable. It's good for the whole community, not just one part of the community. I think it's the best version of one that we've had. And, you know, we've learned from our own past, and this is as good as it gets for now. And if we learn a few more things, maybe next year we'll add something else. But I'm hugely supportive of this, and I will be voting yes. I'll just tell you that right now.
Yeah, and I like the flexibility of it, you know, to allow other agencies that are capable and able. Yeah, it's really good. It's a really
Aligns with the
good job.
aligns with the county too. That's
Yeah.
so big.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the emergency experts. We're just trying to help people out the best way we can. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Well-
Thank you. I guess no questions.
Right.
Appreciate it. Probably take a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-22 declaring a state of emergency and authorizing temporary shelters facilities during severe cold weather conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No? There you go.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Great job.
Great job. I'm proud of our community. I'm just going to say it.
Yep.
All right, on to item B, discussion and consideration motion to award a public improvement contract for Barclay Drive Improvement Project Phase 1, Jackson. I hope Paul's doing okay.
Just a little under the weather.
I
Here seeking approval by motion to award a public improvement contract for the first phase of Barclay Drive, an amount not to exceed $812,508 to the low bidder High Desert Aggregate and Paving Incorporated. And authorize city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city, and further authorize the city manager to execute any necessary contract change orders and or amendments with the contract contingency amount of 5% of the contract amount. So this project is a council goal under essential infrastructure and looks like thought of back in 2018 before my time here with the city. And project includes about 1,000 feet of roadway, including widening sidewalks, ADA compliant crossings, crossing lighting for pedestrians, and street markings. We went out for bid in this project in October. Bidding closed in November. Excuse me. The engineer's estimate was about $981,000, so we did come in well under budget. Project is funded through street SDC funds to the higher extent of the engineer's estimate. We did apply for a small city allotment grant through ODOT for $250,000. Unfortunately, we did not get that grant, but it is currently funded. We hope to begin work in December with substantial completion by June 30th of 2025.
Bless you.
Okay, June 30th.
Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question. Just for the edification of the public, this is a phase 1.
Correct.
And because we had a longer project designed all the way through to Pine Street. Or
All the way to the, yes. Pine
to the
Street.
run, yeah. And, but we couldn't find the funding for it. And so we've reduced it to this.
Yeah, the engineer's estimate for the entire corridor was 4.1 million. So we broke it up into more manageable phases.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't mention that this is going to change who stops and who goes at that intersection, and that is part of the change. So that's not happening at this phase?
What intersection are you speaking of?
Locust and,
Locust and Barclay, I mean, Camp
Camp
Poke.
Polk.
Can't poke?
yeah.
That is included in this phase.
Oh, okay.
Where
Doesn't
southbound,
mention that so the Camp Polk coming south will have to stop
correct.
Yes.
and people coming, okay.
There's some creative curbing that's going in that's gonna. be
Yeah,
there.
maybe some beautification and stuff too as part of that, but
Yeah.
obviously we'll have to, you'll do a traffic change like that, you gotta notify people and flag it and all that, cause it is a change, but it'll be pretty obvious, that that's gonna be, you're gonna
Yeah,
gonna
the
have to,
sooner,
it's not gonna be just a stop sign there, it's actually gonna be some, not curbing, but some bollards and things like that,
Just as raised curbs.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So trucks can go straight without running things down. And-
Yep,
yeah.
and then the long-term plan for that intersection is hopefully a roundabout at some point that'll be development supported and city supported when we get to that point.
Interesting.
just didn't.
I think that's a long way out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah, right? All right.
Thank you.
Any other
Good.
questions?
No, just to reiterate, this is part of, you know, the larger vision with the newer roundabout and connecting the two roundabouts and making sure the traffic can bypass downtown so that it can be safer for pedestrians and people using downtown core, but also safer for people using Barclay as well, because, you know, again, this is phased unfortunately, but, you know, there's some parts of Barclay that are difficult to cross, the sidewalk ends, not the fun poem book, but the reality of it. So, we are addressing it,
Mhm.
which is great. And this is a great start.
Yeah, making progress.
Okay,
Thanks.
we could probably entertain a motion on it.
Somebody.
Yeah, I moved to, you want me to read the whole thing?
It's up
All
to you.
right.
Motion.
I will do it. I move to award a public improvement contract to High Desert Aggregate and Paving Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $812,508 for the Barclay Drive Improvement Project, Phase 1, Locust Alert Street, and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract and further authorize the city manager to execute any necessary contract change orders and or amendments within a contract contingency amount of 5% of the contract amount.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Ready to
Okay.
go.
Any nays? Okay, just making sure. All right, thank you. Next up is discussion and consideration of a motion to declare certain vehicles and equipment surplus.
So we have identified surplus equipment that has exceeded its useful life or is redundant or has been replaced. This is typically the time of year where we inventory those items and put them out to bid on the state surplus website. There are 3 older utility vehicles, Bobcat 4x4, which used to plow the paths, but we have since improved that to a newer model, a Caterpillar roller for asphalt, and various other small items and equipment.
All right,
No questions. I move to declare the vehicles and equipment listed in attachment 1 surplus equipment dash November 2024 as surplus.
Second?
we have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That state surplus website, just so you know, we get a lot of stuff from it as well. So it's a very valuable resource.
And the funds that we raise, they go right back into equipment, correct? Isn't that what?
That would be a question
For
for,
Joe.
Yeah.
Yes.
I-
Thumbs
He's
up.
nodding his head.
okay. We've done all the other business, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so we're just on the mayor, councilor business. You want to go first or last?
I'll go first. I'm just going to say that I'm doing 3 more things before my operation on the 10th in December. And so I'm going to go to the, our board meeting with the commissioners and our COIC meeting follows that the next day. And then I'm going to attend the UGB expansion meeting on the 9th and assist in that. And then I'll be done.
Okay.
Okay?
But never done, never.
But never forgotten.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Yeah, busy last couple of weeks, different committees and meetings, EDCO Board of Directors meeting, which was held in Madras, to celebrate that they had ignited that relationship with Madras, and hired somebody to help with Jefferson County. So got to go up there. Their council chambers are kind of fancy. Have you been up there? I've been in the building. I've never been in the chambers before. They're really
Yeah, they're nice.
nice. I mean, not as nice as this.
Oh, of course not.
They are a little bigger. And yeah, also an update, they did give an update on the COCC Manufacturing and Applied Technology Center, which is housed in Redmond, that Redmond campus for COCC, and they're making some really big, really positive changes there in their program. You know, a lot of response from employers, you know, all through Central Oregon, you know, especially in the manufacturing side, you know, so they're going to be much better set up to get people in, you know, and if they want an advanced, you know, an AA degree, they can get that if they need kind of, I mean, that's the goal, but, you know, they find a lot of people are in for a year or so and get sucked out and
Yeah, well,
employed right away, which is not a bad problem to have. But they're making a lot of updates there, and they're going to be asking, well, they're pretty well funded to do a massive expansion of that place because there's just such a need and for equipment and teaching space. So that's.
do the employers kick in any on that stuff, do you think?
I think that they kick in sometimes equipment, they were saying. But yeah, they have, I think they're going to double their space there out by
Yeah,
the
and they
airport.
undoubtedly, you know, have apprenticeship programs and stuff that
Yeah.
help them get on the job training.
Yeah, I think some people come in there because their employer shows them the.
Says you need this certification.
Yes, but some people I think just go in knowing that they're gonna get a really great job coming back out with some really good hands-on training there, and they've been hiring some really excellent people, and so that's exciting for the whole region, and obviously we have manufacturing here, so that was just a fun presentation to see. I attended the COACT meetings by Zoom in your stead, which was interesting. A lot of interesting presentations, just looking over the notes here. You know, kind of to reiterate, they're like, okay, we're funded for this winter. We're going to plow the roads, like nobody panic.
Right.
You know, however, moving forward, you know, there was a presentation by Senator Chris Gorsuch, who's the chair of the Joint Committee on Transportation, who's going over a little bit of the different options they're looking at for trying to fund projects, fund ODOT going forward. You know, things are kind of a little stuck. You know, there were some major projects that are gumming up the works, you know, like in the Portland area that were originally planned to have tolling be part of the funding structure. And then the governor said time out on the tolling. And so it's kind of left everybody with, well,
Then what?
again, the
Yeah.
money has to come from somewhere. And, you know, so they're trying to, actively trying to figure that out. They kind of reiterated the McKenzie Pass kind of confusion in their messaging. Nothing's changed on McKenzie Pass. You know, it is closed, but it is used at your own risk. Nobody's going to come get you. It's just been kind of the same for every year. And there was a presentation by a woman with the organization Clear Alliance, which, you know, is doing work with substance abuse and impaired driving, more so on the, you know, cannabis side than the the alcohol side, since they're seeing, large increases in that, and it's really hard to track that. But they are definitely seeing increases in that, so. So yeah, that was interesting, so thank you for the opportunity. Always wondered what happened there. Exciting crowd. And then we had the vision implementation team meeting, that Carrie had mentioned earlier, and I think the fun part of that was, we added some new members, some different community members, all the way up to added somebody from the Camp Sherman area, which was great because it's Sisters Country, right? And some, another business owner, right, that was in the Leadership Academy, so showing up in service there, which was great. And, I think the big thing we got to do was, and partially just to help them out, was to guide their new, try to put together their 2024 report. We kind of talked about, everything that's kind of happened this year, which was a lot of fun because we all got to share different, achievements or works in progress or everything, that all had to align with the Sisters Country vision and those kind of, those 4 pillars. So it was actually really fun for everybody because when you're in the weeds, it's hard to see that you're making progress, but when you stick sticky notes on posters, and there were a lot of them up there. We've made, moving a lot of stuff, as a community together.
So this vision didn't get stuck in a
No.
drawer or on a shelf.
No, and we had, why am I blanking on his name? The historian of the group, Dave Swisher, was there, and he's like, well, this is my 3rd vision in Sisters Country. But, he did say that this one has been particularly effective and continues to be, so. So yeah, that was a nice, meeting, and also talking about topics for next year. Gonna do one of the next meetings on focusing more on arts. That was kind of something that wanted to do more of this year, didn't get a chance to put our collective energy behind, so maybe in 2025. And I think that's it. Thank you. Good work.
No, I think you've done excellent on that.
Lots of those, the planning commission interviews, and just to reiterate what Scott said earlier, 10 people, all would be great, which was a really wonderful problem to have.
Right.
So, made it really challenging to kind of, to rank our top picks. But how wonderful. And so many people just showed up and said, I'm here because I want to serve. I want to volunteer in my community and serve. Most people said that, which was really fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what makes this community so awesome well, I'll tell you, I'll back that up when I speak. Anyway, you go ahead.
We had the coordinated houseless response office meeting where Tammy Bainey from COIC presented a potential way that the Deschutes County organization could continue under a regional housing format. And the Charo board didn't go for it, didn't like the way it was set up, and didn't see it as a credible alternative, basically because the Regional Housing Council is in such infancy, whereas the Charo board is already out doing things. And it seems really, really hard to see that isn't going to pull back the abilities, and nobody wants to stop the momentum. So we've really asked Tammy to go back to the drawing board, and I suggested that we look at more of a transitional situation. I don't think that we have to do this tomorrow or next week. I would think that we could do this incrementally. The reason behind it, once again, is because the funding that is going to come to a regional entity. They're no longer going to fund county entities. But we still have funding. So it's not like as if tomorrow we're going to be broke if we don't get money from the legislature. So we did have a regional housing council meeting last Monday, which was after the Charle meeting. And the regional council meeting actually got its priorities established. And we've been meeting for, a couple of months now. I don't even know how many months it's been, but it's, 3 or 4 months maybe. And finally got the priorities established, and there's like 7. And one of them is based on the houseless issues. So I see that as a stepping stone to figuring out some way that the two can work together. It's just difficult to understand as a Deschutes County project that is actually working now, how we move forward as a regional entity without stopping and inviting Madras and Prineville and Terrebonne and all the other little communities to come and participate and still be moving forward, because they would then want to be able to be involved in adopting our goals and our strategies and all the things that we've spent the last 2 years doing. Are they going to want to merge with us as we are, or are they going to want to make changes? They're going to have different goals. They're going to have different situations. So how do we handle that? We haven't got the vision for that yet. We're hoping that Tammy can somehow miraculously form something that seems potential to make this work. And the Regional Housing Council has kind of morphed a little bit over its few months, and the people on it have jockeyed around some. And I think January 1st, just like, one of you or some of the newer people will be on this committee. So I think it's going to be a somewhat of a different entity, and the Charle board will be somewhat of a different entity. So I think there's room for some new thinking and maybe a pause before any big decisions are made. So I think somehow we'll work that out. It'll work out, but it's just kind of it's hard.
Council President Blum, I expected you to fix this
I know.
before you left office.
I tried.
You still have a month.
Yeah. We're gonna have one more board meeting, so
Yeah,
we'll see.
okay. Yeah,
We'll
fix
see.
it. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for
Yeah.
that. I don't see a real easy or direct
No,
or,
there's
yeah.
no fixing. It's a lot of massaging and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, we'll see.
trying to
That's,
see how
yeah,
pieces
we'll
fit
see,
together.
for sure.
I did have one more thing. Forgot
Okay.
you're done.
Yeah, I think that was it, just those 2 things, and I will be here for all the rest of the meetings in
You'll
December.
be here on the 11th and,
Sure.
is it the 4th? The 6th.
4th and then the other.
4th, yeah. Joint meeting, and so you got 2 more meetings.
Yeah.
Minimum. Okay.
Okay. In the last COIC meeting, I neglected to share, that last COIC meeting was, early in this month. And, Tammy, asked that I, let you know that the House Appropriations Committee approved its fiscal year 25 labor HHS Education Appropriations Bill last week. So it was November 1st when it was approved. The bill includes significant cuts to Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, including reduced funding for adult and dislocated workers, and it eliminates funding for the youth job. So what she's asking is that we generate advocacies to support reach out to people and advocate for both the youth and adult DWIO/A programs. So I'm not sure how we do that, but I just was letting you know that's something that COIC is asking the city to try to promote or help with.
Is
And
there
I,
something she can send, or
well, this is the letter.
that's the letter?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's not much to it, but someone could contact her.
Do you want to forward that?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Yeah,
Might be something that it's undoubtedly going to impact statewide.
yeah. I'm sorry
So
for my scribbling all
LLC
over it.
Might be the
Yeah.
organization to help push on that too.
Yeah.
I mean, that, yeah.
Okay,
Seems like something
Those
you
are
might
such
be
good
interested.
programs, you know, yeah.
This is Congress, this wasn't, state.
Yeah, it's our state. Our state.
Well, I
Congress,
was
right?
saying to contact US representatives and senators.
So it's a federal program.
Oh, it's a federal program. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it impacts our state programs.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that the channels
Yeah,
through
I'll
the
give that to
state.
you.
So,
Okay,
Well,
sorry
thank
for
you.
that.
No, it's okay.
Slip.
It's important stuff too.
yeah.
All right, I got a couple of things. A week ago Sunday, I was at an event that C4C did called "What Would You Do with an Idea?" Did anybody hear about that?
Mhm.
It was, inviting people, if they wanted to start a nonprofit or, work for a nonprofit, and just finding the ways to do that. And it was super interesting. And I learned some statistics that I've been kind of telling people about. And I might have mentioned it yesterday at the volunteer, event, but, there's 150 nonprofits registered in the city of Sisters alone, and there's like 1,500 in the county. We are volunteer crazy people. I wouldn't change it for the world, obviously. But it was a really, really cool event that C4C did. They live streamed it and taped it, so it'll have a legacy. It's always going to be available. So if someone wasn't there, they can always go find it. It's called What Would You Do with an Idea? And there were so many partners there that I couldn't even name them all right now. And I was just one of them, talking about how the city cooperates with SCLI and how we cooperate with other nonprofits, just to help out any way we can. We do it in very small ways sometimes. Sometimes we do it with big grants or, big movements of money. Sometimes it's very small
Garbage
things.
bags.
Garbage bags.
Yeah.
If it keeps tons of garbage off the forest floor, we're all about that, right? I just thought it was really cool because it was not city centric at all, and I enjoyed that part. I got to listen more. I didn't have to talk hardly at all, and I got to listen a lot and just see the whirlwind of ideas and people's questions flying around the room, and I thought it was good. And I give Kellen a lot of credit for the direction that he's taken C4C. It's grown. He's super enthusiastic, has a lot of energy, seems to be pretty motivated for his community, and I think it's awesome. So another thing we did recently was coffee with counselors. Was at Fika Coffee
Oh, that's right.
last week. Yeah, you did that. We did find out that Fika Coffee was not great for acoustics, so I'm not sure we'll pick that place again. Not because the coffee wasn't great, it was.
Yeah.
But boy, is that echoey, very echoey
Popular
space. Yeah, it
Do
was.
you go upstairs or do you?
No, we were downstairs. We took over the couches, which I thought was good. It felt like a fun event, and I don't know, we had 4 or 5 people, something like that. It was great though. I love having those conversations with people. Although at some point I'll probably back out of doing every one of them and let other people have the opportunity to speak to people. I think it's just kind of cool. So I hope we continue to do that. I think as part of the goal we made last year for this year was to have better outreach, and I think I appreciate staff embracing that. I think you kind of led the charge in a lot of ways. I mean, I know it was one of the big things with you. It was big with me. I don't think anybody's against having more outreach. I think,
Yeah.
as we grow as a city and grow up as a government and be more responsive and flexible, I think outreach, keep hammering goal 1, I just think it's super important, and it'd be nice to get to the point where nobody ever says, "Oh, I didn't hear about that," or "I didn't know about that." we should be able to say, yeah, I heard about that. I don't agree with it. Okay, that's good, but at least you heard about it. So we don't ever want people to tell us that they didn't hear about it. That's kind of sneaky. But we also want to have forums that aren't like this, that intimidate people, that come to a podium, microphone, recordings and things like that. So let's just keep doing that. And that's about all I have.
I forgot something, but
Okay, go
I
ahead.
don't want to steal your thunder though.
No, I don't think I have any thunder left.
Okay. Well, you just reminded me, I did go to another C4C event, this weekend on, Are the Kids All Right? Which was
That's cool.
fantastic. Yeah, it was, great panelists, including a high school student and, people who've grown up here and moved away and come back and lots of really great information. It was really well done. So kudos to them again. And then also the same day attended the Sisters Historical Society because they had Wilson Weewa from the Warm Springs, and he's a Paiute elder on the Warm Springs Reservation, and so kind of a storyteller, but again, lots of just wonderful information, especially about Paiute history in this region, this Sisters area and beyond. Obviously, the Paiutes had a massive range, but definitely a lot of history with his family in this area, and just great storyteller, and learned a lot about the culture here in the thousands of years of culture in this area. So again, great community organizations doing great things, people getting out and learning stuff and meeting stuff, and yeah, it's been a fun week of a lot of events like
It's
that.
been,
Well, but I want to know, are the kids okay?
Um,
Did you, how do you feel about the present? I mean, did it answer any
Well-
questions or just create a bunch of questions or?
I think both. I think, the high school students is something really poignant that, to anything where you're kind of doing anything with kids, it's more important to don't stop them from failing. Don't stop them from trying. Let them fail. Just, your job as a parent is to be there to help pick them up afterwards. But, don't stop them from trying anything, which I thought was really poignant for a 17-year-old to say. I kind of took that to heart.
I got a 14-year-old. I'm getting
Yeah.
there with that.
Yeah.
It's hard though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to protect them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other thing was, just, she also pointed out just how much important it is to listen. There's a lot of the conversation was around technology and distraction, things like that. Reminding parents and caregivers and community members that, just how important it is for kids just to listen, to put the device down or close the laptop and just listen. She also said that was really critical.
Parents too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very easy for us to be like, oh, whatever, but again, communication and eye contact and coffees and getting out with people, just kind of reiterated that important goal for us. So,
The other thing with failing is you usually learn a lot when you fail.
yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's the best lessons, to be honest with you. Thank you for that. I got one more thing. I'm going to go back to Mr. Maines. I know Doug, he's a veteran. We see each other about once a week, but it doesn't lessen the importance of what he came here to talk about today. I remember coming on council in 2019. I got elected in 2018. And I think one of the first things, I think Richard Esterman was on and he was really big about, public pedestrian safety and crosswalks. And it's one thing that I definitely agreed with him on right away. And, I would talked about, hey, maybe we need to do some lights and, have some special crosswalks. They don't all have to be special, but maybe 3 of them. I have to admit, I'm a little tired sometimes with ODOT because, they have this highway through our town and it is theirs. I mean, we know that, but it's also our town. And I think that it would be great if we had some better conversations with them about, look, we understand it's your road, but can we not come up with some common sense things and have some better lighted sidewalks or, whatever, some of the flashing stuff. And I definitely will be talking with the rest of council, after the first of the year. I think it's common sense stuff that I think that they can bend a little bit on some of these things and help us out by partnering with us about pedestrian safety. And, say, look, it's your highway, we get it, but help us make this safer because, I don't want anybody to get hurt either. So, especially Dougie there. I like that guy. So, yeah. But honestly, we don't want, we don't need any more injuries, right? I used to say all the time, hey, 4 million cars come through town. Well, it's 5 million, it's in the last 6 years, it's gone up by 1 million. So
Year?
a year, 5 million cars a year come through Sisters is the last number I heard. So I think that, the odds are against us, to be honest with you, when you have 5 million cars.
And no stoplights.
And yeah. Well, we definitely don't want stoplights, but having lights on some of those, intersections, maybe the first one on either side, one in the middle, I think sounds like reasonable. And I'd like to discuss that at goal setting. So
When you say lights on the intersection but not stoplights, what do you mean then? You mean just
no red lights.
highlighting it?
Yeah, no traffic lights.
Yeah, okay.
I definitely like the ones where they flash. Bend has them like, on Highway 97 near the Walmart. They've got a couple of them down there because so many people walk across the 4 lanes of the highway. And, I've seen people run those things when they're flashing,
Yeah.
You can't stop everybody. It's never gonna be a zero, okay? But let's just make our town a little safer.
Speaking of
That's my thought.
ODOT, who is representing ODOT to the city? Who is our contact person there?
The new regional manager?
Yeah, and I think they were at the COAC meeting, if I'm mistaken. I don't know the names, but I don't know.
Do you remember?
I don't remember.
No.
I mean, I was zoomed in, so I don't remember. anybody.
So
Maybe it wasn't COAC. They-
Jackson, who are you working with from ODOT? Who's our guy or girl? Pardon? Okay, so you don't know who our,
There's actually, so there's, Bob's.
Fred's, yeah.
And
It's
then,
she, I think. That's all I
Yeah.
know.
yeah. Yeah, I can't think of the name.
Well, the details aren't important now, but I'd
Yeah.
really love to
brand new.
just have a conversation and, to say, how hard is it to do some of these things?
Yeah, I'll talk to Paul too. I mean, I know we've had these conversations in the past, and I know councils have kind of talked it through, like when the Cascade project happened about introducing flashing yellows. We've talked about the roundabouts too, and we do get the pushback, but it's not impossible. I've seen cities with highways that do have them. There's other things to think through, but it's definitely worth doing analysis. And kind of like the Hood and Pine, right? We get those engineering studies that tell and then we don't count the near misses, That's
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate thing about data that feeds these kind of needs to do improvements like traffic safety improvements, right? They
Well-
look at crash data.
Well, they're
look at
probably-
near
they're-
miss data.
They probably want a street study, probably.
Well, and-
Or not. I mean,
Yeah.
there's portions of that right away we own, not just ODOT.
yeah. I mean, we partnered with them really well when we transformed downtown. I mean, that was a big, huge, giant project. It can be done. So I just want to get the conversation started so we
There's-
can move the needle a little.
new crew in town, that's for sure.
Okay.
So I was just wondering how they were getting along.
So that's just my shot across the bow for now, and we can, probably,
Yeah. out of
January,
luck,
February, we'll talk
out of-
about it again.
yeah.
Make
Maybe
a goal.
Well, yeah, and invite them. Usually they
Yeah.
come up once or twice a year, right?
Yeah.
Just to say
Yeah.
hi, so.
Yeah,
That'd be
we should
great.
do that.
Maybe we can have them early, and meet the new counselors or something, and,
Mhm. Yeah, that'd be good.
okay. Anything else? No, one more thing? Let's go home.
Thank
That
you.
was like 5.
One more thing, one more thing.